Hey, it's Tim here. It's been a long while since my last video, but today we're back to look at 23.1. As ever, let's get stuck in. So I have to apologize for what feels like an extended break. I've actually just been really unwell. In essence, I've just literally constantly been back to back, flu after cold after everything for literally the last month, and I got to the point where I couldn't even edit a video, so I just basically decided to just take a break, recover, and the funny thing is I'm actually not going to be able to make another video for 2 weeks for a reason I'll explain towards the end of the video, but nonetheless I just really wanted to cover what's coming soon in 23.1. And also, while I'm here, I'd just like to thank everyone who has renominated me to be a Tableau Visionary this year. It's an absolutely amazing privilege. I really appreciate the support, not just through the comments that I get on the channel, but also nominations like this really sort of energize me to keep making content and to keep finding new ways of doing it so that there's always something fresh available here on my channel. But anyway, let's get stuck into 23.1. So the coming soon page came out a couple of weeks ago now. By the time this video comes out, it will have been just under 2 weeks. And it's a pretty interesting release because I think the first release of the year is always the quiet release. And so I didn't have high expectations. And when I say that, I don't mean that in like a sort of like a skeptical way. Like the releases always have sort of peaks and troughs, and there's some releases which have huge features in them that massively change our workflow. Zone visibility is a good one. The data model is another one. But then there's some releases where it's very obvious that Tableau's putting in the groundwork for something to come in the future. So to me, the .1 and the .3 releases are always that release. And also, if you've forgotten, Tableau server only gets updates twice a year. So this is that update. 23.1 and 23.3 will be the server update. So there's also a bunch of features in this release that are essentially features from 24.4 22.4 which didn't come to server because there's no release in that particular sort of slot. So let's have a look at this. So first off, we have accelerator data mapping. Essentially what's going to be happening here is that when you connect to a Tableau accelerator on the Tableau Exchange, there'll be a little interface that allows you to map the fields in your dataset to fields that are already in the accelerator. So you can basically say, look, this is sales, these are my dates, these are my fields, go ahead and basically swap them out. And so it's actually quite a nice feature. I've tried this a little bit. We can only really try it in the preview with specific dashboards. So I'd love to see this sort of come out to the real world and people try it with dashboards that are a little bit sort of off the beaten track. But again, really super exciting feature. So really interested to see how that works. A couple of enhancements for Slack. So collaborate on insights more effectively with Tableau for Slack app. The latest enhancements make it even easier to put data at the center of every organization or conversation and decision. Now you can share Tableau content with context. Links now come with previews, so your team can quickly recognize and act on relevant information. Easily search for and share Tableau content in direct messages and channels. That's actually quite cool. Get to insights faster by conveniently assessing recent and favorites from the app homepage. So what this feels like is Salesforce making a play to put Tableau deeper into where people work. It's no doubt companies that use Slack spend a lot of time with Slack open. And so if you can bring the analytical capabilities to that platform, which Salesforce of course owns in Slack, then it's actually quite a powerful play. And the other thing to bear in mind here is that, Salesforce is very evidently using Tableau as the front door to the analytics platform that it's sort of secretly built on the Salesforce platform. So this could also be another really good way for Salesforce to start to use the Tableau brand to bring out more data to people and start interacting with it. So that's a pretty cool, nice touch. Let's go ahead to the next one, dynamic access titles. I think this is quite a simple one. I'm sure this has been asked for forever, but this is it. Users can alter the title of their access based on the value of a parameter or a single value field with the dynamic access titles. Simple as that. I would almost sort of put that in the quality of life improvements bucket. It's kind of, people have been asking for this for a while. Identity pools for Tableau server. Okay, so identity pools will enable you to branch out of the strict single identity store limitation in Tableau server. An identity pool is the combination of a source of users, traditionally called the identity store, and authentication mechanism. So the way you got to think of this is that Tableau server, you don't have this with Tableau Cloud because Tableau look after it, but with Tableau server, An identity pool simply tells you who people are and how they're going to authenticate. And essentially what this is enabling you to do is to break that out from, strictly being something that Tableau server manages. And I think they're going to be bringing different capabilities to different types of authentication. So you can see here that you'll be able to add additional pools where you can have your source of users belong to local identity store and have them authenticate with OpenID Connect for modern authentication. This added flexibility will particularly be helpful for organizations that have a set of external users that need access to Tableau that they are not able to invite to their corporate Active Directory. So that is the sort of killer explanation there. You might have people, let's say a contractor who just needs to come in, they can log in with their username and password, but for everyone else who's part of your organization, they can use a nice secure Active Directory method to log in. So that's pretty cool. And they've got a little screenshot to show you what that looks like. You can essentially give people alternative sign-ins. For everyday people, this is very similar to when you go to a web page and you can log in with Facebook, Google, or Apple. It's basically the same thing. Choose your identity pool, and that service will then authenticate you, say you are you, and then hand you off back to the application to do the rest of it. So that's sort of a nice touch, actually. User attribute functions, UAFs. So user attribute functions are brand new user functions. So user functions are functions formulas. Functions that run in the formula window that allow you to call specific things from Tableau server. For example, a username, the group, whether they're a member of a group or not, their email, their name, all that kind of stuff. You can call that dynamically through a calculation into a Tableau calculation. What this is essentially adding to that. So user attribute functions are going to allow you to add more bits of information. So the two new user functions are user attribute and user attribute matches. These two attributes is kind of the same. User attribute will allow you to check a specific attribute, and user attribute matches will allow you to check if the attribute matches something you expect, essentially. And so this is quite nice. This is useful for embedded applications, because what you can then do is you can pass attributes to your embedded application, and the function can simply look for that. And I think the example that they've got here is actually a good example of an embedded setup, which is it's sort of in a debug mode. So the visualization is loading something, but the viz is obviously clearly being fed some attributes from this sort of embedded application, which you can see here, the HTML on the left. I think that's what they're showing here, but nonetheless, it's kind of a really, really good feature, and I think it's going to be great for people. Non-Safari browser support for mobile authentication. I don't understand what this one means. Admins can now specify a browser, such as Edge, for authentication to handle conditional access checks. With the proper configuration for Tableau Mobile and your Microsoft Intune environments, admin can override the default browser used for authentication. That feels like, I guess, they're really, really specifically talking about iOS in this particular case, because iOS, the default browser is always Safari, but you can download the Edge browser on an iOS device, and maybe Microsoft Edge have enabled specific features in Edge that work better with organizations. That's the only sort of thing I can think of for that one. So again, I'll have to dig into that and see what's there. Additional security policies for Tableau Mobile. So a bit of a Tableau Mobile update here. Admins can now enable additional security policies in their site or server settings to make Tableau Mobile even more secure, including screen share and screenshot prevention on Android only, jailbreak detection, and malware detection. So the reason this is important is if you carry a device that is jailbroken, or people can take screenshots of easily, what this is essentially allowing admins to do is to say, hey, if you see that a device is jailbroken, don't let the user use this to access data in our organization, because those jailbroken devices simply could have loopholes, security loopholes that have been baked in. And then from a screen share and screenshot perspective, I think it's actually important for compliance to be able to block those things. So you know that someone's going to get something on their iPad, take a screenshot, and then email it somewhere where they shouldn't be able to. But again, this is Android only. Be interested to see if that's already, I don't think it's already not possible on iOS, because I think Apple kind of behave weirdly on those kinds of things. So I know on iOS you can You can have the application notice when a screenshot is taken. So you could definitely report screenshots into Tableau mobile app and essentially store that information somewhere. But I don't think it's possible to prevent a user from taking a screenshot. It's almost seen as an accessibility feature in iOS. So that would be an interesting one to see. But on Android, it's definitely possible. So that's really nice to see. Tableau catalog mixed content search. Oh, this is nice. So the search features in Tableau have been sort of getting updated for a long time. This feels like an extension of that. So they're taking search now to other parts of the product. In this case, the Tableau catalog. To use a Tableau catalog, you need to have data management add-on, I believe. So, I mean, I think I'm fairly correct in saying you do need to have it to be able to search the catalog, because the catalog only appears if you have it. So the search capabilities here are going to be nice, but it looks like the data discovery and trust have been core principles of Tableau Catalog since its introduction. To improve the discovery experience, the Connect to dialog now shows mixed content types, enabling users to find relevant data faster. What I don't get about this is that this window we're seeing here in the preview is not exclusive to data management users. So it might actually just be that they're using the terminology differently, and actually the behavior might be different. So it's one to check, but this interface is what you get when you load up WebEdit or when you go and do something from the web browser interface to build a new visualization. It's also one you can get if in desktop you want to connect to a data source on server, so that it also comes up. And I think this interface is essentially improving the search features in there. Rather than the little tiny search you had on the top right, you have something a little bit better here. So that's really nice to see. Data quality warnings in web authoring. Data quality warnings will now display for connected data sources in web authoring. It didn't do that before. So that's a bit of a feature parity thing between web authoring and normal Tableau. Tableau Prep external connector gallery integration. So you can now have the external connectors show up inside of Tableau Prep. This is an interesting one because the Tableau Exchange is growing. Connectors are an important category in the Tableau Exchange, and so it's good to see that these connectors are now coming to Prep. I think it will maybe surface connectors to people a bit more. The thing to remember is that these connectors aren't installed by default. When you click on them, what actually happens is you go through a process of adding them. So don't look at this list and think that you have them. They might require some additional steps for you to make sure that they work properly, including configuring your laptop, ODBC connectors and all that stuff. So just be aware that those things are supported, but they're not exactly out of the box. Tableau Prep input step improvements. Oh, this is interesting. So within Tableau Prep's input step, you can now bulk select multiple columns. Hallelujah. Oh my word. That caught me so off guard. I didn't even see that coming. Ah, that's amazing. Within Tableau Prep's input step, you can now bulk select multiple columns. This removes the need to individually select columns to hide or remove them. The only thing that frustrates me about this feature is that it hasn't been available until now, because my word, have I wasted time doing this. It's literally about time. We shouldn't be celebrating this, but this is probably the best feature in this release. You can now also use a relative date filter for date, time, data types to remove stale data. That's a nice touch. These improvements combine to improve interactive performance when authoring flows and help unify the experience across Tableau Prep steps. The reason this is important is because people didn't do this and therefore made their flows slower because they weren't exactly selecting these fields, and they weren't sort of deselecting these fields in the first place. So this is going to force people, it's actually going to make it easier for people to say, hey, actually, I only need this subset of data, and then the flow performance will improve. People won't be bringing in the whole data set. The sampling will also work a little bit better because you're working with a much narrower confined set, and it might be that all of the data fits within the sample window. So that's a really, really good welcome touch. Virtual connections, additional connector support. We have Databricks and Amazon EMR, Hadoop, Hive. I don't know if that's one tool or multiple tools. Amazon EMR, Hadoop, Hive. That sounds like one of these, tech names that you get at the moment, which is a combination of different things put together. I think this is Amazon EMR, Hadoop, and Hive. If I look at this list, it doesn't actually show us those. Oh no, it is actually Amazon EMR, Hadoop, Hive. The reason I know that I haven't got my annotator on is that it's the first item in this list. I thought Hadoop and Hive, to me, I thought were separate things. So yeah, no, there you go. Did not know that even existed, so I have to find out what that is. Hybrid mode for virtual connections. Interesting. You no longer need to pick between live or extract connection, the virtual connections level. With this feature, you can now pick and choose to leverage a live or extract connection for each table within a virtual connection. This is good. Previously, you had to pick live or extract across the whole sort of connection, virtual connection. With this, you can choose which ones are live and which ones are extracts. That is super handy if you're adding tables that, you know, don't need to update that often. Maybe the movement is only weekly or daily. Those can be extracts. But then some tables which are, you know, changing maybe by the minute or changing by the hour, and those do need to be live. You can kind of give that balance, you know, a little bit more selections. That's cool. Content migration tool, embedded credential support. When using content migration tool to migrate content from Tableau server to Tableau cloud, an admin can now securely migrate embedded credentials for data sources. That's actually a big deal, because what that means is that you don't have to go through each and every workbook, adding the credentials back in and then publishing them back up. So that's a, again, for everyone who's doing the Tableau, you know, server to cloud migration, my word, this would have been handy, but it's there now. Resource monitoring tool improvements. Resource monitoring tool improvements include admins can now require users to log in to the resource monitoring tool using their network credentials rather than a separate username and password specific to the resource monitoring tool. This setting can be configured on a user-by-user basis. You can customize a run as user for the RMT server and agent. The resource monitoring tool now supports Ubuntu 20.04. The resource monitoring tool now supports encrypted connections in its Postgres. Is that supposed to say Postgres? Yeah, that's a typo. Postgres SQL database server, ensuring that all data it processes is encrypted in transit. Cool. New Google BigQuery connector, cross database joins for Snowflake. That's super interesting. I like that. Additional flexibility as you build data sources and data models. That is actually quite useful. Cross database joins are a bit underused, I think, as the data model kind of stole their thunder a little bit, but they can be handy in certain situations, especially when you've got data sets that aren't as easy to sort of bring together. It's a really sort of nice touch there, but it's only specific to Snowflake. Source row number in Tableau Prep. So, oh, nice. You can basically add a row number right at the beginning when you bring a data set in, and it preserves that as source row number, so you know the order in which the source stored the data. That's kind of cool. So in this case, I think it's only these two files, Excel and text files. I don't know why you wouldn't have that for a database. I mean, it feels handy enough to have on a database, but maybe databases have that innately built in, and so Prep's not offering it. But yeah, if you know why this feature is only for Excel and text, I wonder if databases have something that I'm just not aware of. I know databases can get indexed, but I'm not sure that necessarily means that. I think that doesn't necessarily mean that they're specifying the source order in any sort of way that's readable by Tableau. So it'd be interesting to see why that is. Maybe they're just starting with Excel and CSV. Cross database join improvements. So this is sort of linked to Snowflake a little bit. Tableau will use our new optimization techniques to speed up cross database joins. Previously, both sides of cross database join were ingested into the hyper, which performs the join. If the tables being joined were large, network I/O can significantly impact the performance of the query. Our new optimizer avoids unnecessarily moving large datasets by executing cross-database joins locally in the database containing the larger of the two datasets being joined when we estimate that it will be faster to do so. So this, I think, speaks to... Oh, interesting. This is interesting. So this is basically the cross-database join is looking to see if it's faster to do this in the database rather than locally. Interesting. I'd love to see that actually play out in real life. Admin insights improvements. what do we got here? So we updated job performance data source to include unscheduled jobs, error messages, and subscription of jobs. We also updated the site context to data sources to include a total size field, so your site storage usage will reflect drafts and revisions. This is nice. So admin insights is for Tableau Cloud. It's a specific data source because you can't get access to the Postgres data set. This is why they have to keep adding sort of value to it, because it's nowhere near as good as the Postgres database that you get with Tableau. Permissions, admin insights, data source. So, oh, this is interesting. So admin insights, again, this is a data source that I think allows you to show permissions. So that's pretty cool. That's it. Nice. It's as simple as that. And looking at the graphic here, because that's what I'm sort of excited by here. That's a really nice touch. And yeah, I think it's a really nice touch again. I'm always curious, sort of what's the end goal of this? Is it to have parity with Postgres, or is this to actually offer... Sometimes you find that because Tableau want you to use Tableau Cloud, they might actually put a little bit more effort into making these data sets a little bit more accessible for everyday people. So they answer questions you actually want to answer, rather than Postgres, where you have to go find all the tables, do all your SQL and sort of data prep to then prepare the data in a way to answer the questions. Column level data quality warning improvements. Cool. You can now view column level data quality warnings, DQWs, where you make decisions about data. For users using visualization to make decisions, we've brought column DQWs to the data details pane. Fine. Creators and data stewards that use lineage for impact analysis or to discover data are presented with a summary of what warnings are applied to the asset, including upstream column warnings. Okay, so basically you know more about data quality when you're using the product. Google Drive shared file support. Files shared with you and shared drives are now accessible in the Google Drive connector. That is a nice touch. Shared drives are kind of drives that are central to your organizations but don't belong to you. In Google, the only drive that belongs to you is called My Drive. Everything else is going to be in a shared drive, which is like an organizational drive. And so yeah, you can view those, and you can also see things that are shared with you, because those technically live on someone else's drive, but you've got the permission to see them. So that's kind of useful. Improved view data experience on mobile. Okay, so on mobile, one of the big sort of challenges is space. So when you go and view the data, this is a kind of a good, although I think this is an Android device and it's got a bit of a weird proportion in. I'm not going to lie, this doesn't look like a phone. It looks more like a tablet. But nonetheless, it is an improved experience. I'd love to see what that looks like on a phone. So once it's out, we'll try it out. Ask Data Web Component. So Ask Data Web Component, using the embedding API v3 and web components, developers can now incorporate all of Ask Data's functionality into the applications. So this is nice. So this, I think, means you can embed Ask Data. So think of this as a new asset type that you can now embed. Very nice. Accelerator enhancements. Accelerators now provide users with an overview of their KPIs accessible from the homepage. Each KPI offers details on its business definition. The following details are now also documented directly for each accelerator: business objectives, business questions, required attributes, and related accelerators. So this is sort of like an upgrade to the requirements rather than like a big change. In all honesty, some dashboards were doing this right from the start. So it's kind of like a feature, but what it really means is that they're, increasing the standard. Request access dialog box. Accessing relevant content is now simpler for Tableau users thanks to improved request access dialog. An easy-to-use dialog box that keeps users in their workflow is now presented to users when requesting access to a viz. In the new dialog box, users who are requesting access can also leave content owners comments. Now, am I imagining this, or was this already available? Because the other thing about this is some of these features have come to 23.1, but from a previous release. So I'll come back to that one in a second. Publish to personal space. Cool. So from desktop, you can now publish to a personal space. That is a nice quality of life improvement. Before, really only explorers and creators using WebEdit could publish to their personal space. Otherwise, they'd have to publish to a project, then move it to their personal space. This means you can now directly go to your personal space. The personal space cannot be viewed by others. It's not shareable. You can't do anything with it there pretty much. It's just for you to sort of muck around with. Think of it as like a playground. The only thing only person that can see what's in in the personal space is an admin, because they need to know how much space the assets you've stored in the personal space take, but I don't believe they can log in and actually have a look at your work kind of thing. So that's something to be aware of. Table extensions, code editor. So they've added a code editor to the table extensions capability. I think if you go and watch my video on table extensions with Leo Laporte, that's one of the things he complained about. It now has a code editor, which I think recognizes the specific language that you're going to be using. So Python, R, I think MATLAB as well. So that's really cool. In fact, it does actually just tell you R, Python, JavaScript, or plain text are the four things it offers. It does syntax highlighting, code formatting, command palette. That's nice, really nice. Web formatting enhancements. Users can now format their rows and columns. Web formatting, keep pushing forward. I feel like I'm not going to touch web formatting and web authoring enhancements until it's done. It just seems to be part of every release, and I'm just waiting for the day when you don't have to think which product you're going to use, web edit or desktop. It's just taking too long, in my opinion. I think I've been saying that it's around the corner for the last 3 years, and I've just given up. Just finish it and let's move on. Incremental refresh enhancements. Incremental refreshes provide an economical way to keep extracts current. Okay, cool. So now you have more flexibility to support incremental refreshes using non-unique key columns, such as column for date/time. That's cool. This update improves usability by expanding the number of tables eligible to use incremental refreshes. So you could, for example, use a number sequence to do an incremental refresh. Essentially, it's just going to check to see, hey, we're at 100 or 101. If we're 101, do the incremental refresh, bring the additional row in. Previously, you used to have to use, I think this explanation is a bit weird, with support for incremental refresh using non-unique key columns. So non-unique key column, such as a column for date/time, that was already a requirement. A non-unique key column. I think my explanation is right, but this description is strange because it gives us an example of something you could already use for an incremental refresh. But anyway, we'll go back to that. View acceleration recommendation service. This is cool. So I have to say, if you look on my channel, you won't find a single video on view acceleration. You probably might wonder, look, why is that? Well, because I've never found a workbook that it works on. It's just simple as that. So I'm really intrigued to see what it's going to find on our server that is apparently going to be able to use this. Either everything I build is super efficient and doesn't benefit from it, or I've massively misunderstood the feature and there's actually a ton of stuff it can work on, and those are the things I should sort of go use it on. Offline activation improvements. Once your Tableau server is activated, you can now use login-based license management, LBLM, to activate desktop and prep builder for license creators in offline environments. The enhanced offline activation solution makes your key activation and management more efficient and scalable. So that's good. So you can activate these things offline, which is, if you're working in a bank where you're air-gapped and you can't necessarily just, ping a Tableau licensing server, that's great. Ubuntu 20.04 LTS support. So Tableau Server for Linux now supports Ubuntu 20.04. Essentially, the LTS means long-term support distribution. So that's sort of the version that's going to keep getting supported for a while. That's good for security. It's good for stability as well. So data stories. And again, this data stories here is a feature from 20. Interesting. This is a feature from 2022.2. It's now available in 2023.1. And I think all these others are going to be features released in previous versions of Tableau. Already available in Tableau Cloud. And now available in Server 23.1. So there's probably, what is it? 1, 2, 3, we got 6, 7, 8 features there that are basically from the previous release. And that's an interesting dynamic because essentially it's like here are 8 features that we're going to call new in this release, but actually were previously released, but for people on server it's a new thing. And to be fair, server is still quite a large user base, so there will be companies who've been waiting for this release. But the problem is because they do the updates less often, what happens is people won't hop onto this release straight away. They'll wait until 23.3 to upgrade to 23.1 because you kind of want to stay one version behind with all the stability patches that have come through so that everything works. If you upgrade Tableau Server on day one, trust me, someone in your organization is going to find a bug. Tableau Cloud often has this experience actually. So one of the sort of interesting aspects of Tableau Cloud has been that you get the latest and greatest of Tableau, but when there's a bug that massively sort of changes your workflow, you have to pivot to work around that bug. You don't have a choice to go back. So something super cool. So anyway, that is everything in this particular release. Really appreciate it. Now, a little note on the next coming weeks. I anticipate that Tableau will release this version at some point in the next month. I'm sort of going to make a call and say in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That said, I'm actually going to be away for a little while. I have some treatment that I have to go through, and it just means I have to take a break. So if in the event that Tableau comes out whilst I'm on that break, I'll just be a little late with videos about the new release. That said, there are some videos that I've already started making that I never got around to edit that I am due to sort of keep pushing out on the channel. So I will still be doing updates, just there might be a little bit of sort of sequencing and timing issues to do with the new release, but that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. It's good to be back. It's good to actually have a voice I can use in a recording, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.